forum where each week we have sacred conversations about the things that matter. And today we are honored to have with us Roxanne Stone and Katelyn Beaty. Katelyn is editorial director for Brazos Press, and she's also the author of 2 books, both of which are in our bookstore, A Woman's Place and
Excited to be here. One of the great things about having a podcast is that whenever you go to bars or parties, you can tell people you have a podcast. But then they ask you what it's about, and you have to explain it, and that's less fun. About one of those 3 things: life as single women, life as Christians, life in New York City, and sort of the strange intersection of those 3 things.
Both of us moved to New York City in our 30s. We won't reveal where in relation to our 30s we are now. But like so many transplants to New York, we really came. And so New York was something of a way to say, what if we get to write a different script for our lives? And what if moving to New York and experiencing life here is part of that new and different script? And maybe it's not what we...
From Orlando, where I had moved from Chicago, which is where I met Katelyn. And I came here right after a pretty difficult divorce. So that was my entree into New York.
Mm-hmm. Of a place where community and the subculture felt pretty homogenous, and really wanted to break out of that.
And for both of us, in addition to life changes, we were watching the country and evangelicalism really shift as Donald Trump took office, and the faith of our childhood really...
Responses, I think there were maybe 2 positive responses. The rest were pretty critical. We're still scratching our heads about the one nice young lady who said that the word evangelical reminded her of fairies.
We don't know.
We don't know. Seems like a great young woman, but made no sense to us.
So that's a big part of the podcast. We talk about our religion and our faith, and we really get into topics that we think Christians should be talking about right now, from racism to sex abuse to the politicization of our faith. We also have great guests.
Do y'all know who Amy Grant is? Okay, she was on last summer.
We had a little game with us, and I think my hair is like really messing with this mic. The hot pink is "Let's Go There," and these are more personal questions. You've got to get real. And the orange is "So Sanctimonious," which means it's going to be about religion or faith. Something like that. So we'll take turns drawing without looking, and then you get to ask the other person the question, and they have to answer no matter what.
And we'll also have time at the end. I realize we'll want to wrap by 10:45, but we hope that there is time to field a few questions from you all as well.
Yes.
All right.
All right, who goes first? We didn't actually discuss this part.
I'll go first.
Oh, which means I'm going first.
Oh, right. So you're going first. Okay. That one?
The last one.
What is a challenge? Okay, this is pink, so we're already just going personal. We're going there. What is a challenge of being single at our age that doesn't get talked about enough? And what is a joy?
Okay. I feel like we could do a whole podcast about this. We probably have. I think during the pandemic, one of my good friends, she was single, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer during the pandemic, and she had moved to New York City a couple of years before that, and I just kind of watched her go through what it scared me in a lot of ways, because I watched her go through something that she really needed family or friends. She needed like companionship for, and ultimately, I went and picked her up at the hospital a couple times, other people did, but eventually she just decided to move back and to live with her mom. And I thought, well, what if her mom wasn't still alive? Like in a few years, that's going to be the case for a lot of us. And like, what if we don't have kids and we don't have parents, and we're like, how do you build a community that can really support you through like financial struggles, through sicknesses, through, moving houses. Like, I think so much of what we see in New York City is if you and pay people to be your support system in ways, but it comes a time like that, like, can you pay somebody to hold back your hair if you're throwing up from chemo? Like, who is in your life in those ways? And how does the church, how do Christians get to a point where we can build that kind of thick community for people that don't have the family support system around them, or they never had kids and they never had a spouse or a partner to do that. So I think that's something that I'm definitely thinking about. A joy of being single that I think is unexpected at this age. Also something I could talk a lot about, but I think, I went on a trip last fall, and I roomed with another single woman, and it made me think like how many trips I'd gone on and roomed, like been a roommate with so many different random people, and I was like, well, if I was married, it would always be the same person. So I think it's fun. You do really get to have these kind of friendships and experiences that I think you can, if you're married, you often can like get to a point where you center your life around.
Try to keep far back in the brain. I don't want to visit that Rolodex very often. And the only one that came to mind, this was several summers ago, and the gentleman was striving to be a comedian, a stand-up comedian. And, I heard some of the bits and tried to laugh. While also, a state I like to think about very much.
All right. Oh, another easy breezy.
Yes, Roxy gets an easy breezy one. Okay, you only get one amenity in your apartment.
Oh.
You have to choose between these three: in-unit laundry, dishwasher, or a doorman. Doorman, obviously not in your apartment, but
that would be weird.
In the building.
Well, I don't have any of those things, so if you gave me any one of them, I would be a happy camper. It was kind of funny because I brought this up at dinner last night with people because I was thinking about this, and it immediately sparked a conversation, and everyone had very strong opinions. I was like, okay, this is such a New York conversation.
Yes.
I think a dishwasher, and I think before the pandemic I would have said laundry, but I am just really tired of doing dishes by hand, so I think I'm gonna go with a dishwasher. Yeah. Everyone disagreed with me though and said laundry.
I would have gone laundry.
Yeah.
Oh man. What about you all? Laundry?
Laundry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Doorman? Anybody? Okay. Oh, nice.
Oh, there's one.
You. Okay. All right.
All right.
I would just say I did get in-unit laundry, but you know what I miss is like you can go down to the laundry room like on a deserted Saturday night and do all your laundry
Yes.
in like 2 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest of the time you got to remember you to change it and to do this and that. So it's a
Huh.
lesson.
That's that's
a
a
good
very
point.
positive spin on something I have to go do this afternoon.
All right. Okay. Oh, so sanctimonious. All right. We both attend churches now that feature liturgy and have been in different liturgical churches as adults. This is very different than how we both grew up as evangelicals. What about liturgy is compelling to you?
Yeah, I think in the low church, kind of seeker-sensitive church I grew up in, I remember feeling a lot of internalized pressure to have a very specific kind of emotional high, and I had to kind of bring the right emotions to the service, and like the mark of a good worship service was a very powerful emotional experience. And there are times when I have that while reading the liturgy as well, but I think there's something comforting and reassuring about the stability of those words that we pray and say together week in and week out. You don't have to kind of produce it yourself week in and week out. There's a richness there that you can sink into that feels sturdy. And the mark, it is efficacious whether or not you feel that it is. And I really appreciate the kind of freedom to dip into the richness that's there and kind of rest in it, that I don't have to produce an intense feeling for it to be rich.
We talked a lot about that in an episode this year, which a lot of you might appreciate, which was with Bishop Curry, and we had a really good time talking with him about the liturgy and just how it's also shaped him. So that was fun.
When did you first start to feel at odds with the evangelical tradition you grew up in?
At first, I don't know if this is technically the first, but here's a very memorable moment for me. I was, at the time I was working for a polling company, a research company that specialized in religion and did a lot of work on evangelicals especially. So I was working for them and I was going through some crosstabs, and I don't know how often it is that people have epiphanies looking at data crosstabs, but this happened to me. So I was looking at these crosstabs, and it was a whole bunch of different issues that we had pulled on, and this was maybe 2018, 2017. So I'd already sort of had the Access Hollywood moment, like what in the world with Donald Trump and how are people supporting this and all this. So I'd had a lot of these moments, but I don't know, I still had this thought that it was fringe or that it was weird or that it was just because it was like hold your nose and vote kind of thing. And then I saw these crosstabs and it was like every political issue that you could imagine, like gun control, immigration, incarceration, like welfare, like everything. And I was just like, the evangelicals were where I felt like, I believe they were on the wrong side of every issue in a really significant way. And these were just people that were being polled. It wasn't like they voted for a candidate that supported that. These were their questions, And so it wasn't like you could say, it wasn't like these people were saying, oh, I just voted on abortion. It was every one of these issues specifically. And it really broke my heart. And I remember I was in a WeWork on Gramercy, and I just remember having to go for a walk afterwards and just being like, what am I doing? I thought these were my people, and I thought they taught me something. Like I thought that I learned to believe a certain way about all of those issues from them. So what happened here? And that was my big moment. Yeah. All right. Ooh, our last so sanctimonious. Okay, I'm glad that you get to answer this one, considering your book and recent episodes. But yeah. So why? The question is, why are so many of our podcast episodes about Hillsong?
Okay. Do you all know Hillsong Church and the story? Yeah. Well, there are so many dynamics in that story, kind of the rise and fall of this global, it started as this Australian Pentecostal movement, became a global brand. Hillsong New York was one of the most, the best known Hillsong churches in the world, had a celebrity pastor at its helm until they didn't. So I think there are a few elements. I think we want stories, we like stories where there's kind of an exposure of power misused. I think that satisfies a desire for justice. I think we see so many elements of Hillsong culture in other churches, that some of the dynamics around money and sex and power and greed and image management and brand management, they're not isolated to this particular church. They're just a very clear distillation of something that is in the water of a lot of American churches. The celebrity factor itself, the fact that there were legit celebrities going to Hillsong, New York, and until everything fell apart, we're kind of fascinated by that, I think. Carl Lentz is a fascinating person.
Yeah.
But so we're actually recording yet another episode tomorrow.
Take this Carl Lentz story when he got fired, and then suddenly it was like that was all that I ever could write about. So
Yeah, we both need a moratorium.
yeah, we do.
Okay.
All right.
A favorite meal experience in New York?
Oh, I forgot that one was in there. That's such a hard question. How does anybody answer that?
Do you want to skip it?
No, it's okay. I'll come up with something.
Do you want to come back to it? Okay, all right.
I'll think really fast. This is cheating a little bit.
Okay.
But I did think one of the things that I actually found really precious during the pandemic was eating at other people's houses and doing picnics. So do you remember the picnic? We had 2 picnics, I think, together during the pandemic. But we did one in the park, in Central Park, that everybody came. It was we hadn't seen, it was pretty early on. It was May or June and we met, and it was I don't know, it was really special because we were just all there, and we hadn't seen anybody in so long, and everybody brought homemade food except I think me.
You brought chicken.
I brought Popeyes chicken.
Yeah.
Everybody ate it, okay?
No, I was grateful that someone thought to bring Popeyes.
I couldn't do another dish. I was like, I cannot do any more dishwashing.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was really, really sweet. That was really fun. So, all right. Well, we are close to out of time, so we have this. I'll just do this one because I think we can get both of these done in 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Let's go. This is get real, or let's go there. All right. If your teenage self could see you and your life now, what would she think?
I think she would be a little bit like, you're not singing praise and worship songs as much as you did. What's up with that? Is that a sign that you're on a slippery slope? I don't know that she would perhaps look askance at the liturgical tradition, like, isn't this rote? Isn't this all just going through the motions? I think she would actually, though, be pretty amazed that her older self gets to live in New York and has her apartment and is doing the thing. I mean, that. I said to a friend, she reminded me several years ago, she was like, when you were 13 or 14, when we were young teenagers, you told me that you wanted to be an editor and live in New York. I was like, I don't remember that, but that's kind of amazing. So I think that would be very, very exciting to my younger self.
All right. We did cheat and save this question for last on purpose. But
Okay, so we'll both answer this, right?
yeah,
Okay.
let's both answer it.
What do you think, or at least hope, is resonating with people about the Saved by the City podcast?
So I think there are a lot of, particularly evangelicals our age, who have had really similar experiences and are really trying to sort of make sense of what it means to have
Closed, because we can't get healthier and better as Christians, as institutions, unless the truth is revealed. And so I certainly have felt times of kind of despair or frustration, but ultimately feel that it is good that we are talking about problems in the church, because we can't address the problems unless they're exposed. And out in the open.
Have you ever had to break up with any of your friends over politics?
Oh, man. I wouldn't say that we broke up, but I would say that we drifted apart and don't talk anymore. A soft breakup, like a quiet quitting, as it were. Yeah, I do think this is true for a lot of people. I think the 2016 presidential election revealed a lot. I'm personally so grateful that didn't come into our family, like my parents and siblings and we're all on the same page. But I would say people in friend groups that I didn't really want to talk to after the election because I felt that it would not be productive. And at some point, politics is about how you see the world and what you value, and you can only go so far in a friendship if you realize you see the world in such a fundamentally different way.
Yeah. I've probably had the same experience with friends, but I will say the more pronounced thing that happened to me was during the pandemic. I eventually, I was here for most of it, but I did go home for that, around that Christmas, and I drove to Colorado, which was a very long drive. And then I stayed for a couple of months with my parents. As Katelyn mentioned at the beginning, I grew up in a very small rural Colorado town, 100 people, and there's one church. So for me, that was a really hard, painful time because I was watching the people around my parents not be careful, right? They weren't masking, the church was still meeting. I went to a town a couple miles away. I went to the grocery store and there was nobody masked. I went to a bank and I asked the bank manager to put on a mask because I needed him to do notarize something, and he and I got in a fight because he wouldn't do it. And I was and he's you can go somewhere else. You can find a different bank. And I was just what is happening? This is this is where I grew up imagining a place, all the small town values of taking care of your neighbor and being there, and it just fell apart during this time period. And I was terrified for my parents. They were in their 70s, and I was just I was terrified I was going to lose them, and I didn't feel like the people around them or their church were taking that seriously and taking care of each other. And it's been, I've only gone back once since the pandemic, and it was okay, but it took me a while to be able to go back and feel any kind of warmth that I had always felt there in the past.
Why New York City? Could it have been Chicago or Austin
No.
or Boston?
Nope. No, because New York is a fundamentally better city than Chicago or Austin. No shame to Chicago or Austin. We both lived in the Chicago area. Yeah. Chicago's a great town. I think about this sometimes because my parents and my family are all in the Midwest, and the rent prices are a little bit more affordable in Chicago. But at this time, I'm no, but it's not New York. The Met isn't in Chicago. Central Park is not in Chicago. So I just think the expansiveness of this place, the beauty of this place, the history of this place is singular, and I know that I will look back on my time in New York with such fondness later on in life. I'm so grateful that I got to be here for a period of time in my life, and I don't think I would feel that way about Chicago.
It's just different. I thought about LA. I feel like everyone I know moved to Nashville. I know. I lived here for 3 years, and then I left for a couple years, and then I came back because I really missed it, and I felt like my faith was livelier here. I felt like my I was just interacting. I mean, there's nowhere else, at least in America, do you just walk as much? Do you sit on public transportation and you're with people of all different walks of life and different parts of the world and just completely different backgrounds than you? And it just, I feel like it's so easy to live in a bubble everywhere else, and I just don't want to be in a bubble anymore. Like, and if I ever get in a bubble, I want it to be burst. And New York will do that to you every time, so.
Final question. What has been your most listened to episode of the podcast, and why do you think that is?
Okay, this is actually a really interesting question because you would think it would be Amy Grant. It is not. Maybe you'd think it would be Beth Moore, and it's not. Or maybe you think it would be a Hillsong episode, and it's not. But it's an episode called, what did we call it? It's kind of a weird title. So it wasn't even, I don't even know which title.
I don't even know which episode you're talking.
Deconstructed, deconverted, but not defriended or something. It's not a good title, kind of a clunky title. But it was with Audrey Assad, who's a musician. If you haven't had her here, she's such a beautiful musician. But she has had her own interesting faith journey through Catholicism and evangelicalism. And how did she grow up? It was something different, like Anabaptist or something. But anyway, and she's deconstructed, which is like a big word in our circles. I don't know if that's a big word in mainline circles right now, but so she's kind of done this deconstruction, decolonization work on her faith, and she's also, she's not a Christian anymore. And we just had a really tough and interesting conversation with her about what that's meant for her and how that's changed her life and like how she still views the faith now. And I honestly don't know quite why that's the episode that has remained at the top for a long time. Like it was one of our first season's episodes, and it's nothing's caught up with it yet. So, but why do you think it is?
I mean, there's an algorithmic reason probably, but that's not the interesting answer. Yeah, I think because Audrey Assad has been a well-known singer-songwriter, musician in evangelical circles, and then kind of pretty publicly shared that she's no longer a Christian. I think people just really wanted to understand how she ended up there. I love that it seemed like she had really come to a place of healing, that there was a lot that she needed to shed, and she was able to talk about her spiritual journey in a way that was open. You know, she knew she was talking to two Christians. I think she also knew that we weren't going to try to like strong arm her to like change her mind, you know, that we were coming from a place of curiosity. And I think that, for other people who are Christians but maybe have friends and family who are leaving the faith, they want to know, like, how do I remain in relationship with this person I love, even if we end up on pretty different pages?
It's also the only episode we talked about mushrooms. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Well, unfortunately, on that note, we have to leave it there. Roxanne, Katelyn, thank you both so much for being here this morning.
Thank you. It was a really good time.
And thank you all for being here, too. A reminder that Katelyn's books are in our bookstore, and you can listen to the podcast on all the normal channels, right? Saved by the City is its name. Hope you do that. Hope you'll stick around and join us for worship at 11 a.m., whether you're here in person or online. And come back for the forum next week. It will be Children and Youth Sunday here at St. Bart's, and we'll be welcoming Robbie Penoyer, who's the head of Grace Church Day School downtown, to talk about faith in the lives of young people. See you then.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so sorry.